North Atlantic. Winter 1943, the sea is black. No moon, no horizon, just wind cutting across steel and water. You are standing on the deck of a merchant ship somewhere between America and Britain. No land for 1,000 miles, only cargo and silence then. The explosion comes from below, not ahead, not behind. Under you, the deck lifts, metal screams, the hull tears open like paper. You don't see anything, no submarine, no warning, just the sound of something breaking that should never break. The ship is dying. Men are shouting. Someone is already in the water. You don't remember deciding to move, but suddenly you rerunning. Lifeboats hit the ocean hard, and then you see it. A dark shape, rising slowly from the water, a conning tower, then another and another. 3 submarines not hunting separately, circling, watching, waiting. This wasn't an ambush. This was coordination. Because what destroyed ships in the Atlantic was to just a weapon. It was a system, a method, a way of turning the ocean itself into a trap. At the start of the war, submarines were nothing new, slow, limited, constrained by batteries and visibility. On paper, they were weaker than destroyers, fragile compared to battleships. Alone, a submarine was dangerous but unreliable. Sometimes it struck. Sometimes it vanished without impact. There was no certainty, no dominance. But then came a shift in thinking. Not stronger weapons, not faster engines. Coordination. Instead of one submarine attacking a convoy, one submarine would watch, shadow, track, and report. Somewhere beyond the horizon, others would be listening, waiting, moving into position. By the time the attack came, it was already too late, because now it was T1 Hunter, it was a pack. They waited for night, not because they had to hide, but because they didn't need to. On the surface, they were faster, more maneuverable, and nearly invisible. Radar was primitive. The ocean was vast, and in the dark, a low-profile submarine could slip between ships without being seen. When they attacked, they didn't come from one direction. They came from everywhere. Ahead, behind, left, right. No pattern, no escape. Escort ships would chase one contact, while another submarine slipped into position. Torpedoes cut through the water in silence, and by the time the explosion came, it was already over. Between 1940 and 1942, this method worked, not occasionally, not randomly. Systematically, convoys disappeared, ships burned, supplies vanished beneath the ocean, food, fuel, steel. Everything Britain needed to survive was crossing that ocean, and it was being hunted. For the sailors, it didn't feel like a battle, it felt like waiting. Every hour at sea was tension stretched thin. You could watch the sky, you could scan the horizon, but you couldn't see what mattered. Because the real threat wasn't visible, it was beneath you, and it could strike at any moment. 1 in 4 merchant sailors would never return. Not soldiers, not armed, just men carrying cargo thrown into a war they couldn't fight. If this were told today on social media, it would sound simple. Submarines destroyed ships, but that misses the truth. It wasn't destruction, it was pressure, constant, invisible, psychological, a system designed not just to sink ships, but to break a supply line. And with it, an entire country, because Britain wasn't just fighting armies, it was fighting starvation. An island nation lives by ships, cut the routes, and the war ends without invasion. For a time, it almost worked. By late 1942, supplies were dangerously low. Construction couldn't keep up with losses. The balance was shifting quietly, relentlessly. But systems can be countered, not with a single solution, but with layers. Convoys became tighter, escorts became more aggressive, sonar improved. Aircraft extended their range, and then came the breakthrough. Detection. Radar evolved, not just seeing ships, but detecting submarines on the surface at night. The darkness was no longer protection, it became exposure. At the same time, intelligence changed the game. Communications were intercepted, positions were predicted. Convoys didn't just react, they avoided. The ocean didn't get smaller, but it became less unknown. By 1943, the shift was undeniable. Submarines were no longer the hunters, they were being hunted. Losses mounted, crews disappeared, entire patrols never returned. In a single month, dozens were destroyed. What had once been an advantage became a liability. The pack was still there, but was no longer invisible. And just like that, the balance broke, but the cost remained. Thousands of ships lost, millions of tons of cargo gone, tens of thousands of lives erased beneath the surface. And somewhere in the Atlantic, a lifeboat drifts. A man watches the remains of his ship sink into darkness. 3 silhouettes move away into the night, looking for the next target. The system didn't need to be perfect, it just needed to work long enough. Because in war, the most dangerous weapon isn't always the most advanced. It's the one used smart. For a moment in history, the ocean belonged to the hunters beneath it.